Welcome to the show. You are watching Politically Correct with me, Maya Hayakawa. Let the show begin. Till death do us part. Does this really mean anything anymore? Is the marriage institution working? Marriage has changed more in the last 50 years than in the past 5,000 years. We no longer cling to traditions, be it from signing prenups to cohabitating, polygamy, and divorce and remarrying. This marriage revolution continues, and it's evident by the new marriage law, which was signed in by the president last year and stirred up a lot of controversy in the process as well. Here with me today, I have one of Nairobi's top family lawyers. I'm talking about Mr. John Swaka from Clear Trust. Welcome to the show, Mr. Swaka.
Thank you so much.
First of all, thank you so much for coming. I know that you're a very busy man, up and down in court, and it's great that you found some time to come. I just want to start off with, why a new marriage law? Was there really a need for it?
Well, the challenge that we had perhaps initially was that we had different laws touching on the same things, touching on marriage. And the Muslims are theirs, Hindus are theirs. And I think those are a general feeling that if everybody will be covered under the same law, then I think the lacunas and the voids that had been experienced in the other pieces of legislation could actually be treated. And actually, we may have a streamlining of our laws to simplify it and to make everybody feel under the umbrella and well catered for. And so, and again, initially, there are some aspects to which the law was really, really silent about. The issues of polygamy, issues of civil marriages, and many other types of marriages, which now this new law has been able to encompass. Mm-hmm. When do you declare yourself a married the spouse? When do you declare yourself a wife for the purpose of marriage? When do you declare yourself a husband for the purpose of marriage? Initially, people just stay for so long, and somebody will say, we're never married, we're just living as friends. Mm-hmm. And so it was important that a definition is made as to what constitutes a marriage. Mm-hmm. Yes.
All right. Well, you've just talked about polygamy, and you brought that up. That was one of the most controversial issues that people, were concerned about. But why legalize polygamy?
Polygamy was not actually legalized. What the law did was actually to explain that under this form of law, under this type of marriage, polygamy is basically it's a potential ground for polygamy. It doesn't mean that it has to happen. What this Marriage Act has done is just to expound on what was on the other, the now repealed African Divorce and Marriage Act, and the Marriage Act itself. Still, there's provision for polygamy, even in the other repealed legislation. Mm-hmm. The only thing is that it did not pronounce, it did not announce. But based on the repealed law, the law basically was emphatic that if you have conducted a statutory marriage, that means under the African Christian Divorce Act, that means in the church or at the Attorney General's chambers, and you've been issued with a document called the marriage certificate, then no other marriage during the subsistence of this particular one was valid. Mm-hmm. You could only get into another forum if the subsisting marriage has been brought to an end, either by death of either the spouse or both of the spouses, mm-hmm. or by a court order dissolving the marriage. Mm-hmm. But still, in that particular legislation, those providence for polygamy, because then any other form of marriage, that means customary marriage, had a provision. The law is clear that there was no restriction to the man who was conducted a customary marriage from remarrying during the subsistence of this particular marriage. And so what this Marriage Act has done is basically to explain or to expound, basically to say that if you have not done a church or the Attorney General's chambers, can we stay in cohabitation, customary marriage, still the husband can move forward and actually remarry, or rather bring in another wife.
And does the first wife have any say in terms of who he can or cannot marry, or whether he's even allowed to marry someone else in the first place?
Of course, the provision says that you need to notify your wife and all this kind of stuff. But between you and I mean, if even if the wife was to say no, I mean, how can it be challenged? I mean, it is just, you're just at the mercy of that particular husband to actually, if you can straighten your things and make him not be able to move forward and do all that. But the consent required cannot actually, in my opinion, stop the man from moving on ahead.
Do you think that's right, though? Do you think that she should have a say?
She ought to have a say. You see, like what happens in the Islamic kind of marriages, they say that you're allowed to marry 4 times, but with the consent of the first wife. And from my experience, a consent is never sought, and if it's sought, it's immaterial, really. And it's a bit immaterial even in this particular circumstance, because if the wife says no, but the law does provide for that kind of indulgence. It does provide that it's a potentially a polygamous union. And so I don't really think the wife will have much say.
So in this case, the law doesn't protect the first wife?
It may not be able to protect the first wife based on the mode of marriage that you'll have elected. If the wife will want to be protected, for me, I think she should rather embrace the other form of marriage, which does not allow for polygamy.
So what would you advise a woman, for example, if she was married and her husband happened to want to get into a second marriage and she doesn't want that? What can she do?
Formalize a statutory marriage. I mean, talk about the essence and let him believe on the importance of conducting a statutory marriage, which will actually which will not actually allow the man from conducting another polygamous union. And that's the best way out. Or if you believe in your man, he loves you, he'll be with you for the rest of your life, that's okay.
And I'm curious to know implications of polygamy in the legal field.
Polygamy has always been a challenge to many marriages. Very few can actually say that a polygamous union has been a blessing, has been good, has been I mean, it brings with itself its own challenges, because the issue of rivalry and providence, even we have one man provided for different households, different needs, then the resources get stretched, and the rivalry brings about animosity. And in the event of the passing on of the man, of the husband, of these many wives, then you have the intricacies of people fighting for the little property that could be there, or the massive property that could be there, whichever way. It's difficult to actually have a proper division, because every person then feels either marginalized or set aside. The other people may feel so-and-so has been bequeathed much more. And so it brings about a myriad of issues and troubles which are not featured well in the monogamous outfits, because in the monogamous outfit, then you're able to deal with one wife, one husband, and the children of that particular household who are dependents. So a polygamous union brings about different dependents, and all dependents must be provided for as per the law. And where dependents feel left out in the will, or the mode of distribution of the will is not good, or has shown affection, has shown open distrust and favor, you know, they can always challenge that.
Oh,
and,
really?
You can always challenge a will and say, we were not provided for, we were disinherited, you know. And so polygamous unions actually do set a platform for those kind of squabbles much later on. Yeah.
Do you think that, you know, the clause that was dropped about giving consent to your husband giving marriage, do you think that that was in favor for the men and what they wanted, versus more about, you know, the women and what their needs are?
Definitely, we have a very male-dominated parliament, and you know, that's why I think women also fighting to have a third provision inserted into and observed in our institutions. And a male-dominated parliament actually saw it right to delete that particular provision or clause, basically because very few women will have given their consent, and then they will have challenged that particular provision. They will have challenged that particular decision to bring another wife on board, because they'll have said, my consent was never sought. Mm-hmm. And once he says that a consent never sought, then the burden of proof is on the man to actually show and demonstrate that a consent was sought. Yet she's saying that a consent was sought. So ideally, the man then will not have been able to swiftly move in to pick up another wife.
Mm-hmm. And now many reports have come out that divorce rates have been increasing here in Kenya. How true is this in your experience of practice?
It's indeed true that the divorce rates are going up, but it's not really absolutely true that it's been going up. It's only that people now people have access to law. Mm-hmm. More and more Kenyans are getting educated in law, and people are able to exercise their rights, and where they feel that I'm in a marriage that is not functional, mm-hmm. for reasons dysfunctional, I don't really feel that this is the right thing for me to be in. Now people are able to access justice and move to court and lay out their grounds and see whether the court can actually agree to the dissolution. Initially, when this knowledge was not open there, or people will basically walk away mm-hmm. from these marriages and get into other relationships, and mm-hmm. So still there was that challenge that marriages were not really working out, but it's not as exposed as now, because now we can literally count the statistics mm-hmm. Easily mm-hmm. by looking at the many cases that have been filed in different courts, and then you can tell that divorce rates are going up. Mm-hmm. Yes.
What are the grounds for divorce?
There are many grounds, but depending on the type of union. But the most common grounds that are a bit common across the board, mm-hmm. Issues to do with infidelity mm-hmm. of either spouse, issues to do with cruelty. Cruelty can be anything. Somebody refuses to talk to you. Somebody refuses to perhaps love you the way you feel perhaps I should be loved. Mm-hmm. Somebody demeans you, assaults you, sexually assaults you, physically assaults you, verbally. Things to do with insanity, If you can prove that we've tried everything, my spouse has lost her mind or has lost his mind. Mm-hmm. Things to do with impotence, if you can prove that we walked into this thing and I think there's a problem of some nature, those kind of things. And fraud was employed on me. Mm-hmm. Fraud, somebody somebody hid what we call material facts, was suppressed, and I acted out of the fraud that was employed on me, and my taking of this step was not well advised, mm-hmm. because the truth was not pointed out to me. And then again, that is a ground. Mm-hmm. And incompatibility, when we try and say that now we thought we lived together, but things are really thick. We are unable to flow, we are unable to relate, we are unable to, and we think we are better off apart from each other than being together.
So is it really easy to get a divorce here? What's the process?
Yeah, it is easy, but again, it's a bit difficult as compared to other jurisdictions, because of course, like in the West, and especially like in America, all you need to do is to sign papers. Mm. Papers are presented before the judge, and the judge is able to be convinced that these two parties have actually painted out a situation where they don't want to be together. To be granted straightforward. In our case, you have to move to court, you have to file a petition. The petition must discuss the marriage. Mm-hmm. From when did we start, and when did we get into these issues? When did things collapse? All those key things must be covered. And you must outline your grounds articulately. Mm-hmm. You must give particulars. It's just not enough to say he's adulterous, or the issues of infidelity, or the issues of cruelty. You must actually expand on them and say, on a particular day such and such happened. Those kind of things. Mm-hmm. Then the party going to court, who is a petitioner, must serve the respondent with those particular papers, whom will be given opportunity to respond. He can respond and say, don't want a divorce, come on. What this pastor is saying is something that is not existent, and he can nullify everything, or he can actually say what the reasons that have been outlined for a divorce are not true. He can oppose all that, but but after opposing, he can do what we call a cross petition. You can now also say, I want a divorce, but based on these grounds. So can turn the tables on you and say, you are the one guilty of 1, 2, 3, 4. Based on my terms, I want a divorce. And so at the end of the day, parties must come and lay out everything before the judge. The judge will consider. And one of the things that we must also demonstrate is that we've given it a chance, which in many jurisdictions they will not consider. We have given this thing an opportunity. We've given a chance to one another, an opportunity to reconcile, an opportunity to work it out. We've involved different people. It's not been possible. We've not been able to attain that goal, and because of that, we see that this marriage has irretrievably broken down. It cannot be salvaged. We want out.
Oh my God. I mean, you've just explained just a little bit of what it takes to actually get a divorce. And to me, it sounds like a very complicated, gruesome process and a very ugly, very ugly process. But we need to take a quick break. When we come back more with John Swaka, I still want to explore this divorce issues a little bit because a few questions have been raised in my mind. Stay tuned.